Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Get ready for truth bombs, belly laughs, and the kind of accent that turns car into a two-syllable adventure. Here's your host, Shaun.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's the 22nd of December. Ooh. This is the Edge of Liberty show right here on the SHR Media Network. I was getting feedback, figured it out pretty quick. I'm getting better at this. 14 years of doing this, you learn a thing or two, or in my case, one. But it's not the point. The point is it's 3 days to Christmas. You ready for the holiday? Is your shopping done? You're wrapping? All that stuff that just drives you absolutely crazy, even though you love the holiday. Hopefully it is. Hopefully you're not waiting to the last minute like you know who. Hopefully you have your plans all lined up. See friends or family. Spend times with the ones you love. Do all the things that you're supposed to do around the holidays. That would be awesome. I got a lot to talk about tonight. 2 stories out of California. Not 1, 2. Because California is such a shit show. It deserves that much attention. And it's only going to get worse. Hopefully not. Hopefully not, but it's going to. Let's see. I'm going to start off with the Epstein files. But I want to talk about the chat room real quick. You got Ricky in the chat room, the Phantom, who was first this evening. O2 in the chat room. I see Reaver Common Sense in the chat room. Mission Ready Men's in the chat room. If you watcher on other outlets, want to get into the live chat, you can go over to SHR Media on YouTube. Click on the red live button. Hit the subscribe button before you jump into chat. Then get into chat, and you can be like some of these absolutely amazing freaking human beings that are in there and showing their support for the evening. And I appreciate them being here more than you will ever know, because I'm not a bragger. So the Epstein files are released. Immediately, a lot of people weren't happy because of how much is redacted. Now, obviously, I don't know what's in there in the entirety. I just don't. You don't. I don't. A lot of other people seem to, specifically the Bill Clinton's office, because he released a statement today essentially saying because so much was redacted, it's because they want stuff hidden. And that would be because Bill is prominently featured throughout the Epstein files, including some photos that pretty much sums up what we all thought Bill Clinton was, for lack of a better term. Now, as I said, not being a lawyer, not knowing what's in there, I can't tell you if the DOJ released enough. But here's what I can tell you. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of it, they had probably 1.5 million lawyers. God, imagine what that room smelled like. Looking at all of these files, right? And what should have been the biggest concern, again, I wasn't in there, but was most likely a concern is, what can we release? And then what is too much where we are now going to expose A, the victims, and B, legally, us, because we're exposing the victims. We have to protect both. It's okay to protect the victims first and then protect, the entity. And lawsuits are going to be the only thing to determine if they released enough or not. Both sides are upset that what they released. Here's what you have to keep in mind. There are victims out there. And yeah, some victims may say, hey, I don't care, release it all. And some may not. And you have to protect those who do not. Whether it is politically expedient, whether it is the popular thing to do, whether it makes you at home feel good or bad or indifferent, it doesn't matter. The whole thing is about the victims. That's what we've all been saying right along, right? So we have to make sure that the victims who don't want their information put out there, who, for whatever reason they choose not to be put out there. National security stuff. Meh. It's a much harder thing to defend unless it actively puts people in danger now. There's been a lot of rumors about who Epstein has been attached to. And if he was working for an organization, 3 letters of our own or somebody else's. That is something that the court will have to suss out, and the lawsuits will come. But, unless it puts somebody directly, or you could prove to me that our national security was directly at risk by releasing that information, then it should have been released, plain and simple. Again, this is all speculative. Anybody who says, oh, I know what's in there, it's speculative. The only people who really know what's in there are the people who are named in the cases and were involved in the cases, and maybe a couple of federal investigators. So remember that as this pans out. Yeah, you have to. One of the things I see on social media, especially X, and I see it from conservatives, and I see it from every side, there is this need to immediately just pounce on something right away. Now, we all knew the Epstein files were coming. We all knew they had to be released Friday. We knew all this stuff was coming. And there were people who you could tell had their posts loaded, ready to go, bitching about it before they even read a damn thing. Some of the infamous and famous people on that list had the same thing going. Bill Clinton, his PR guy, of course he sends out, it's a strategically brilliant move to say, oh, well, you're not releasing more because you're protecting people and this isn't the whole story, blah, 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 when you know that no other information will probably ever be released. Because now you're saying, I'm the victim and you won't let me prove it. Or you're the bad guy and you won't let me prove it. Stuff like that, when you come with PR people, it's a game. It's a game. And look, it's not like Clinton doesn't have a whole set of lawyers. It's not like somebody somewhere in Clinton's circle knows what happened on some level. So all of these people who run out saying, I know what's in there. Well, how do you know? Bill, how do you know what else is in there? And do you know that what came out about you is about as much damage as anyone's going to see no matter what? So you can now say things like this? You're positive of your stance. Okay, what was released? Okay, that was bad. Wasn't as bad as I thought. They redacted maybe some of the worst stuff. Maybe this is all hypothetical. Now let's release this to make us look like the victim and other people look bad and just saying that they're trying to cover it up. It's an equation that has no answer, and they know that, so that's why they throw it out at you. So let's go down some of the names. Actually, first, no, let's look at some of the failures and just some of the... When we scream that there's 2 tiers of justice in this country, political, financial, those who are connected and those who are not, this is another example. When everything first started with Palm Beach County, they escalated the case to the FBI to determine state charges were insufficient. You have a local DA who says, whoa, this shit goes way beyond us. We got to hand this up to the feds. The FBI and the prosecutors turn around. Now, understand, because they all work for the DOJ, that they don't always somehow work together. The FBI oftentimes hands things off. Hey, this is what we have. This is what we think we can charge. And the U.S. Attorney's Office, federal prosecutors turn around and says, hey, thanks. We're going to take a look at it. We're going to go through it. yeah, that's about right. Or we're going to add this, or this doesn't really, we won't be able to prove this in court. We'll dump that. And then other people get involved, higher ups at the DOJ. What's that case? Oh, who's that case connect to? Oh, let us have that case. Kick that case over to this. Blah, 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 blah. So FBI federal prosecutors have it. They draft a 60 count indictment. 60 counts indictment against Epstein. None of them were like jaywalking. All right. You're talking federal bang me in the ass prison time for most of these cases. Then all of a sudden, somebody from the DOJ negotiates a non-prosecutorial agreement that stops the federal case. Boom. We have a problem. Phantom with a great point before I go on. Like when someone who has been caught lying and getting caught consistently, when they do say the truth, people will think they're lying again. 100%. You're 100% right, Phantom. Who else? I saw somebody else sneak in too. I think I saw Cosmic Bard sneak into the chat. Yeah, Cosmic Bard's in the chat. A lot of people in the chat. So anyhow, all of a sudden, immunity is extended beyond Epstein into the named and unnamed co-conspirators. Well, first and foremost, we know when immunity is extended on a federal level. It's because you know some shit, and the shit that you know is much bigger than the fish that you are. You only usually get immunity because of what you're able to provide. Not in every case. That's not a slam dunk. Sometimes some people get immunity because they know who they know. But immunity is extended beyond Epstein to named and unnamed co-conspirators. The victims were not informed prior to the agreement being signed. Now, if you were the victims and the parents of these victims, many of which were still juveniles when all of this was done, can you imagine that your child or you went through this unbelievably horrific, monstrous event in your life where you were exposed to quite literally the worst of the worst in human beings? And then some dork with a gun and a tie, maybe even not a gun, over at the DOJ confronts that monster and says, "Here, sign this, and we'll just kick this. You'll be fine. It's no big deal." And nobody fucking even tells you that deal's in the works. They never say to you, "How do you feel as the victim?" It's horrific. It's ridiculous. And yeah, he served time in jail and then he got his work release privilege. He didn't serve real time in jail, though. Not the time that he should have got. Fucking, I think Martha Stewart did more time in jail for tax shit than Epstein did for these unbelievably monstrous events, these crimes, the evil of the evil. It just goes to show you that there's two tiers. No matter what people say, there's two tiers. And sometimes that tier isn't always the group above you. There are groups necessarily below where you are financially who get deals all the time in this country for stuff. They do these horrific things, but they're from a poor socioeconomic class, and they had a really hard life. So fuck those 15 robberies. We're going to let them out of jail. We're going to let it happen. Just stroll with it and see what happens. So when people say the middle class is always getting fucked, this is proof. And I know if you're listening to this, you can think of at least one case that you know of personally where somebody walked because of their socioeconomic class or their clout. Plain and simple. It's not hard to figure out. And the problem is all of these fuckers should be in jail. And yes, I know Epstein was in jail when he killed himself. But guess who he was running around with all that time between the first indictment and the last? River Common Sense says this has become so politically muddy, it's hard to tell what's up and what's down sometimes in the chat room. Yeah. And this is the problem. And again, when we say clean out the swamp, the regular people, this is the sort of shit that we're talking about. You look at some of the people that were on this list who either showed up in photos or showed up in reports, and there were reports all over the place. If you go through the files, it's something like, hold on. I want to say there was like 57 other, like either FBI reports or NYPD reports or Palm Beach. This wasn't like a one-time incident. Everybody knew at some point after Palm Beach County, for the most part, that this guy was a shithead. Now, disclaimer. At that time, the internet wasn't what it is today. And a lot of these stories, probably because of influence, stayed local and quiet. It's not like today where I could tell you if somebody got charged with a misdemeanor in East Bumfuck, Wyoming, because I can Google it in 15 seconds. Or even worse, or even better, depending on how you want to look at it, it's all over social media because it struck a chord with the social media user. They posted it. That struck a chord with 1,000 other ones, and they kept reposting it. Now you know if there's DUI where nobody got hurt that took place in East Bumfuck, Wyoming, right? We have all that information now. However, I think at some point when you're Epstein, and many others did, Trump did it and other people did it too, where it's like, yeah, I've heard what that guy does, and I'm not going to be around it. He has protection. Look, when you walk on a case like this, other people are going to assume that you're protected. And they're not wrong, because he clearly was protected on some level. And even though they can't do much more, they can at least walk away, which people forget is what Trump did. Trump cooperated with the FBI. And there were other people who did that too, where they just pushed him outside the circle. Like, look, you should have been in prison. I know you should have been in prison. Can't do anything about that. I'm going to stay away from you. And then at some events, yeah, he's going to be there. You're going to be there. You're going to walk by each other, whatever, right? But all that stuff is what's getting focused on, not who went to the island, who was on the plane, who's regularly in pictures with this guy, regularly. Bill Clinton was a big name, and a couple other big names that showed up, and the former Prince Andrew there in the UK, Mick Jagger, Michael Jackson, Diana Ross, Bill Gates, Chris Tucker. Bill Gates, dude. At some point, Bill Gates needs to just look. I am not the smartest man on the planet, but if I had all this money and my name keeps showing up with things like limiting the population, killing off some of the population because it's better for the world, and that was my idea, potentially being involved in some vaccines that didn't go over so well, maybe, I don't know. And then all of a sudden I'm showing up with Bill Gates all the time outside of other allegations that have happened in the past. You would think you would just disappear. Like, if that was me, even if I was completely innocent and I had all that money, I'd be on an island somewhere being like, fuck this. It's too much stress. It's too much concern. Nope. Look how important I am. I'm still going to stay out there because you little peons need me. That's how Bill Gates thinks. Chris Tucker, the actor, David Copperfield, again, another person who, once his name leaked a couple years ago, disappeared off the face of the planet. Noam Chomsky, Sergey Brin, Steve Bannon. It's another one. I mean, like it or not, whether you like Bannon or not, you got to ask some questions, just like you do for Clinton. I'm a big believer that no matter which side of the aisle you're swinging from, you have to be able to swing on your side of the aisle and to the other side of the aisle. You have to clean up your own pen, so to speak. Sarah Ferguson, yeah, we already know about that one, and Brett Ratner. And there's more, but those are the most prominent ones that kept popping up over and over again. And I'm not giving cover or smokescreen for any of them. I want the answers just the same as everybody else out there, but I understand the legality of it. I understand stuff gets redacted. I understand that they're always going to err on the side of caution to protect A, the victims, and B, themselves. Because if you're the one who says, yes, we can release this, and then all of a sudden you're not, and you lose a bunch of lawsuits, your life's over. That's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. I don't blame people for protecting themselves. You also have to really, where this is going. The pulling of the strings on both sides of the aisle that this is going to be. And I guarantee, just percentage wise alone, there'll be lawsuits that releases more information. They'll say the DOJ didn't release enough, and we're going to get more information. This isn't over per se. It's kind of cleaning house a little bit, where they're putting up curtains now, but the house isn't ready for sale. So it's going to be interesting. No big shockers per se. I mean, the whole thing is shocking, but nothing more than what we already knew. Let's see. Billy Boy's about to become a victim of Arkansas. I didn't say anything. Let's see. Mission Ready Men in the chat. Anyone involved needs to answer for political persuasion needs nothing. 100%. I agree. Karma's going to catch up from Phantom. Yeah, and maybe it will. I hope it does. Like I said, I hope it does. I can sit here and be objective. I can sit here, and you have to be. Like, I think a lot of conservatives are losing their objectivity right now. They really are overall, just with everything. There are so many people who are just going for the sensationalism of it all. And not enough people are slowing down and saying, hey, no, this is still the information we want. X, Y, and Z is not the reason we maybe got everything we wanted, but at least we are where we are, and we'll see if the lawsuits produce more. Hold on. Pardon me. I vacuumed today, and I had to move everything, and my cough interrupt button ended up on the other side of the room, apparently, so I apologize for that. I got to take a break. Wherever you're watching from, please like and subscribe. Do me a favor. Not just us. Go check out KLRN. Make sure you like and subscribing wherever you're watching from them. I'd greatly appreciate it. We come back. We're going to spend the next 40 minutes on California with a break, talking about what a shithole it is right after this.
Ever dream of escaping the daily grind? At Escapist Travel and Tours, we make those dreams your reality. From breathtaking adventures to cultural immersions, we offer escapes tailored just for you. Let us take you to places where every moment feels like a new chapter in your life's adventure. Visit www.escapist.travel or call us today at 1-855-885-81776. Your escape awaits.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRN Radio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRN Radio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SA.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. I want to thank all the subscribers on YouTube. We crossed 700 this week. That was a huge victory for us. That was our goal. We were really trying to do that before the end of the year. We got 700 subscribers. Thank you so much. It's right. It was up to 702. It's back down to 700. It's just part of the game. People sub all the time and then they go away and then they come back, and that's just part of it. If you want to subscribe, it would be greatly appreciated. Smash the subscribe button, like this episode, please. You'd be helping us out greatly. On to California. Now, I have two stories from the California Globe. The California Globe, my friend is the editor-in-chief, Katie Grimes. Katie has been a voice for conservatism in Sacramento. I know. I'm going to be playing the Eric Swalwell video. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to put it at the end of this or the beginning of the next. I got to talk about it. I know, Reaver. I know, buddy. I'm excited too because of how stupid it is, but we'll get there. Katie Grimes is the editor-in-chief over at the Globe. Great writer, great conservative. She's been in Sacramento for years. She's been all over the liberals in the state with her reporting, exposing them left and right. And she reported over here at the California Globe. Oh, I should probably make that so you can read it. There we go. There's the website. That 3 major brands are leaving California. Now, I want to list off some of the other brands, companies, whatever you want to call them, that's already left California. Let's see here. Here we go. And just think about how much money, and tax revenue when you have a state that's what, 18 billion in the hole for 25-26 budget. Here's some of the companies that have already left, and then I'll talk about the ones that are leaving. McKesson, healthcare stuff, big money. Chevron, obviously, big money. Tesla, big money. Oracle, big money. CBRE, big money. Charles Schwab, big money. Hewlett-Packard, Palantir, SpaceX, Neutrogena, Playboy, okay, Realtor.com, FICO, and ACOM. Now, that is from 2011 to 2021, 789 headquarters for different companies have left. Looking at about 77,000 jobs. That was for PPIC. Hoover Institution provided this information. And then CBRE reports from 2018 to 2023, 115 Fortune 500 companies moved their physical headquarters sites, peaking in 2022. So that's where we are now, just so everybody knows. That's not that's not where we're going to be after this list. So now the first one, Blue Diamond Growers, the Sacramento plant closure. And that's going to be 600 jobs phased out through 2026. Blue Diamond Growers has been in the Sacramento in California for decades. It was a huge employer. And they're not moving necessarily out of the state, but they're essentially breaking up their main office and moving all over the place. But if things were good, they wouldn't have done that and needed to do that. Leprino Foods, they have a factory down in Lemoore that they're closing, and then they're moving it to Texas. Leprino cited high operating costs in California and shifting capacity to its newer facility in Texas. You have another core food manufacturing organization who would rather pay, because California does make a shitload of food via farming. That's a reality. When they say, oh, some of the best tomatoes in the country come from California, that's true. I agree with that statement. The products of California are not necessarily garbage just because they're in a state that is run by garbage politicians. There's a lot of quality stuff that comes out of California. However, California seemingly doesn't want it here anymore. And then finally, Anheuser-Busch closed its Fairfield facility in 2026, or it will in early 2026. 238 impacted employees tied to the Fairfield closure. That's going to up the cost of beer in California because it's going to be cheaper for them to move elsewhere and then send it in. They'll up the cost of beer, but the bottom line will be cheaper for them to do that. It'll have to be imported. Those are three major companies. Those are three major job makers. In the Fairfield area, 238 employees is pretty big. Each of the three businesses, sorry, my bad. Yeah, each of those three businesses have been independently reported as moving. So it's not just this one report. And there's no telling what the overall dollar loss is for just those three businesses. But it's a tax hit. It's a payroll hit. It's contract hit. It's all middle income jobs who are really getting hammered for the most part. Most of these executives probably didn't live in the state and they telecommuted. Maybe they came in once every couple of weeks, like the Starbucks CEO flying from Southern California to Seattle. It shows you the future that they see in California. And these are people that have endured it this far. Blue Diamond, I'll tell you, Blue Diamond is like California born and bred. Like they were uber pro state of California. And it's getting to the point now where they have to make massive changes. So you have to really start thinking about when you're starting to get Anheuser-Busch has been at that Fairfield plant forever. I've done the tour there. They bring out the big horses. It's cool, but they make a ton of beer. And the other thing that they make there, if I'm not mistaken, is emergency cans of water. You look at a lot of these natural disasters and you will see emergency cans of water. They're an aluminum can, just says emergency water or fresh water or whatever. And Anheuser-Busch, I believe that Fairfield plant used to produce a lot of those. And that's not saying it won't be produced somewhere else, but that was something that you had local in a lot of disasters in a state that has a lot of fires. Fresh water being canned close by is kind of a big deal. But as we go forth and we're looking at all these companies, you're looking at $18 billion for 25-26, estimated up to 31, 26-27 fiscal year. And you have the guy at the helm, and this doesn't even include after the break when I talk about all the fraud shit that's happening in California. This is just companies leaving because the tax rate and the cost of doing business is so fucking stupid in California that they just can't bear it anymore. Rick Robinson said, I didn't on my show because I actually like my audience. Cosmic Bard, yes, cans of water only slightly more alcoholic than their actual beer. Buy potted water and save space. Yeah. Look, I don't drink Anheuser-Busch products, especially after they sold InBev. Every once in a while, I'm sure I've had one or two AB products, but the point is they were still a pretty big employer, and they produced a lot for Northern California, and there were a lot of jobs, and now they're going to be gone because of this current Democratic leadership and the guy who thinks his next stop is the White House when he leaves the State House in California, Gavin Newsom. And I will tell you, if I were any of his primary competitors, he's going to be the easiest target. And he's going to say it's because I'm the biggest name and I'm the guy I fear the most and blah, 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 blah. And I don't even know who the other primary people are, but none of that's true. He's the easiest target because he has led the decline of California at breakneck speed. His decisions, homelessness, the budget, fires, you name it. This guy, he could fuck up a free lunch so easily. California, fourth largest economy. right? Don't we hear that all the time? It's the fourth largest economy. California's got the fourth largest economy. It's such a big economy. Economy. Then why are we 18 billion in deficit? Why in the state of California, where I live, are all of these Fortune 500 companies leaving and non-Fortune 500 companies leaving? Why are your business decisions or your laws that affect business so fucking bad that these states cannot afford? And that doesn't even include the gas price. This is just the operational cost. I mean, yeah, fuel pumps into it, but that's not the overall. This isn't even the crime that we're talking about in California or the homelessness or all that other stuff. This is just business laws, tax rates, simple shit. When you're watching that tax revenue that you need oh so badly run out the door because you, Gavin, can't tell special interest groups, hey, you might just want to shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up. Tell some of these fucking assembly members and state senate members, hey, yeah, you know that ridiculously high tax that you're trying to put on businesses that, employ people and fund all of our emergency services and this, that, and the other thing? Maybe we shouldn't fucking try to jam it up their ass every chance we get with a new bill. But he doesn't. He keeps talking about how corporations have to pay. Well, you know what? Corporations are going to walk. And here's the other thing, Gavin. Just for all the people who can't frame this in their head. If they'll walk from California to Texas, and God help us if another Democrat ever gets in the White House and they control Congress, don't you think if they'll walk from California to Texas, they'll keep going till they're out of the country? And that everything's going to be way more expensive anyways? This is what happens when you absolutely vilify business and turn everybody in business into demons. And you use this straw man argument. Well, this company made $35 trillion, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, okay. They did. They absolutely did. But look at what everything else that they did on top of that. The amount of infrastructure their taxes have built, the amount of schools their taxes have paid for, the amount of people that they've employed and what their taxes have paid for, and how much they pump into the economy. That's how it works. If somebody's making $100,000 a year at Anheuser-Busch as a shift manager or whatever, I don't know, and you close the business, you're losing all the taxes from it right then and there, losing all the taxes that they just pay hand over fist. You're also porking their supply chain, their trucking, all the trucking companies that make their living off of running beer out of that plant. I used to work for one years ago out here when I first moved out here. And they had dedicated, because it's really weird. And I don't know if it's like this in everywhere, but Sacramento, whoever the trucking company is, bids each county. In Sacramento, you have Markstein. In Yolo County, you had another one, yada, yada, yada. And when I worked at Markstein years ago, they would have dedicated trucks running back and forth to Fairfield to load up on product to distribute through, to the stores. Well, now that's all fucked up. And that's going to be more expensive because now they're going to have to travel farther to get that product. All those people who work there, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year, however much they're paying, to pay their rent, to buy food and put it on the table, to buy a car, all the money you make off the taxes for all that shit, potentially gone. Because if they chase it or they go somewhere else, because I'll tell you right now, people are going to go to where the jobs are. And if the jobs aren't here, they're not going to be here either. Milepost 154 says, BZ rather, says, I want Michelob Bear back. Chat room, Cosmic Bard, Michelob Special Dark was the last beer I drank from AB in 1996. Man. DS Scott over on Facebook says, what was Newsom ever done in California? The aqueducts? He didn't even do the aqueducts. Newsom has spent a shitload of our money. Newsom has signed a whole bunch of laws that put parents between their children. Newsom has allowed crime and homelessness to go out of control, but he hasn't done anything positive in California. There's not a single thing that he can run and look at in California as a success. He'll try to frame a bunch of it as a success, but there's nothing on paper that he has done that is actually successful, and certainly nothing that will sell on a national level. It's just not going to happen. I know he thinks that his next stop is the White House, but it's just not going to happen. There's just no way he's going to make it through the primary, because I'll tell you right now, if a moron like me, off the top of my head, yeah, I have the stories for the businesses closing, but all the other shit just off the top of my head can just blurt them out. Imagine what people who have researchers and planners and political assassins setting it up are going to be able to do with him, and they're going to tear him apart. I love the chat room, and I'll tell you why. Because no matter where I am telling my story of the day or just running off at the mouth, I can look down and see how one part of the story has taken a turn, and now they're fully discussing their favorite beers in the chat room. And I got to tell you, I'm pretty proud of myself. I'll be right back after this.
Welcome to River of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch River of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Edge of Liberty, right here on the SHR Media Network. Holy God, I thought I was white, man. This is the guy who thinks he's going to replace Newsom. Now, first and foremost, I'm not making fun of the kid. Look, I don't know who this kid is. I'm sure he's a performer or some young kid. I don't know. And I'm sure his parents or somebody said, oh, I want you to do this stupid TikTok video with this very, 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 very dull human being who thinks he's smart, interesting, and a tough guy, who's very sexually ambiguous, and really is just do it because it's going to benefit you more than it will him. At the end of the day, I don't blame that kid. But who over at Eric Swalwell's campaign thought that this was going to be something that catches? And is it one of those things with these songs and these TikToks with these politicians? At some point, you have to look at the politician that you're doing the social media for and say, this isn't our bit. I have none either, but yeah. I love how he points to the sky when the lyrics say "get real high." When it's just, this is just, I have never seen such horrible lip syncing and acting in my entire life. Oh, that's tough, Eric. That's so tough. Hold on. I want to see him do the seagull again. That's what I'm going to call that move that he just did right there. That's the seagull. Yeah, pump those wings, Eric. I have no idea who that is. I do give the kid credit. He is at least muting himself for the cuss word. So I give him credit there. He couldn't even, he tried. Why do they make this so bad? Maybe cringe is the point. Maybe cringe is the goal. Like they want this to be so freaking horrible that you can't forget it. I don't know, but I want you to watch this slowly. Now, this song, at least the part from the Four Non-Blondes, has been around forever. I don't even listen to this sort of music, and I could probably lip sync this whole song just because I've heard it so many times through other places. When you do these recordings, you're doing it with the track. You can hear the track going, right? And you should have spent 9 minutes trying to learn the lyrics. Eric couldn't even mouth the lyrics for his timing. He starts doing look, he's not even talking right here. Now he's like, oh, I have to all of a sudden say what's going on. And I have to do it in a way that people take me seriously. This is the same guy who came out of the pool shirtless and he put up, do you remember? How does anyone fucking take him seriously? Do you remember the weightlifting when he was putting up the bar and 2 25-pound plates or something like that, talking about a tough guy? He's just... Oh, shit. He's an embarrassment to white people everywhere. He is the whitest human being. I now see how I now see how easy it was for Fang Fang to get past his armor, so to speak, and penetrate the inner sanctum. Look, she had him pegged. Oops, that may have come out wrong. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I really don't know what happened. But I get how it happens with Eric. Anytime he has a chance at attention from anybody who is slightly darker in skin tone than him to try to seem cool, he jumps on it. What's sad is this kid right here is going to have to live this video down for the rest of his life because I set it up, you knock him down. People are asking, is this against the Geneva Convention? He is the rhythm of an asphalt truck. Hold on, I got to back up to the comments. I don't even know where to start. Okay, here we go. This was at the beginning of the video, Cosmic Bard, and unfollows. O2AMT, what in the Sam Hill? Mission Ready Men, what did I just watch? Rick Robinson, why? BZ, gag me with the Hyrax. Did my brain cells just go into the negatives? hair gel is all Squall Right put up on Facebook. This is cruel and unusual punishment. Why does he hate us? Squall has the rhythm of an asphalt truck. He's a cuck. Isn't this against the Geneva Convention? Shaun hates anyone. Yeah, everyone. Yeah, I mean, some days that's true. This dude is so white he makes crackers look like rye chips. I'm deaf and I even heard the Pomeranian puke. We're supposed to be sending money orders and Christmas cookies. Oh, God. You know what? I love you guys enough. I think we should do this just one more time. This video has the quality of a handheld camera at an 80s wedding, not the one that was like brought in by the bride and groom, but like somebody who brought their own camera. This has the same production quality of that. It's unbelievably sad, and this guy thinks he is running for governor. Oh man. I needed that today. I'm not gonna lie, I needed that today. All the hate I'm getting in the chat room for playing that again has made it worth it entirely. All right. Let's quickly go through this last story because I got 9 minutes left. So everyone's focused on Minnesota. And while Minnesota is a unbelievable focal point for fraud and what's going on in states and how so much of your money, taxpayer money, has been ripped off under the nose and sometimes maybe in front of the nose and eyes of the people that are supposed to be safeguarding it. God, I almost played it again just for fun. I'm not going to. Megan Barth over at California Globe, I told you there was 2 of them tonight, wrote this: California is the fraud capital of America. If you get a chance, go over there and check it out. Tell them I sent you. But let's look into this article a little bit. On December 22nd, she wrote the article, amplifies a post from Representative Kevin Kiley claiming that California is the fraud capital of America, robbed of at least $80 to $100 billion in waste. $80 to $100 billion of taxpayer money shit down the pisser. Here's where the claims, according to Kiley, are stemming from. $32 billion unemployment fraud. State auditor found $10.4 billion in potentially fraudulent UI payments in one phase of the pandemic, and later reporting an analysis cite total fraud estimates in $20 billion to $32 billion range. $24 billion in homeless funds lost. We've covered that 100 times. $18 billion on the bullet. Everyone's still mad at me for even threatening to play the Swalwell video again. $18 billion on the non-existent bullet train. $650 million on the scrapped 911 system. That story went vastly underreported. California's next-gen 911 effort has been troubled and paused or reset at numerous different points. Reports indicating hundreds of millions have been spent, with some sources citing $450 to $650 million wasted. Wasted. Look, the high-speed rail to nowhere, California never really wanted. A whole bunch of people, and I've talked about this before, close to famous Democratic politicians made money off of it. The homeless industrial complex, we know that. One of the people that are leading one of those NGOs and making a shitload of money, I don't have it in front of me. She was the state rep who got outed a couple years ago because they found out she was hooking up with like an intern and grooming the intern for her and her husband. I can't remember her name, but she's now leading one of those. And I think the LA Times wrote an article about how she's back and blah, 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 blah. And the unemployment fraud is unbelievable. And if California, if this is all found to be true, and we're looking at what, 7-8 billion Minnesota, if they opened up the books in California and they found 80 to 100 billion dollars in fraud, and all of it seemingly coming under a certain administration by the name of Newsom, it really stretches what happens when you have an animal that's so big that not that it can just be taken from easily. It can be, like California. These agencies are so big and they're just not supervised. And I can tell you nightmares that I've had with some of these agencies personally. But what happens is it's so big that people end up just giving the money away to these. And yeah, O2AMT hit it, the grift and the money laundering. They just give it away to their friends, and their friends take their percentage and launder the rest back to their politicians. Homelessness alone, right? I mean, 24 billion, 24 with the B billion, and homelessness in California is up. But you start looking at what those monies went to, and they all went to these NGOs. All these NGOs are run by friends of Democrats or Democrats themselves, like I mentioned earlier. When you have a state that's so big that people can rip you off left and right, you also have a state that's so big that the people running it can rip you off left and right and do it and try to make it seem like, oh, we're trying to solve things. 18 billion to lay some fucking track. That's where we're at right now in the state. 18 billion. We're about to be $18 billion short in a budget deficit 25-26 in California. That right there is the train. 24 billion, 32 billion on unemployment. How does that how does it even begin to happen? Well, because people are told to look the other way. I told this story years ago when I was working inside a Social Security office about watching somebody coach their cousin at the front counter on how to get more out of the system. I talked about that with the Minnesota thing. That's how the Minnesota became so rampant, is because once people figured out they could get away with it, and people were either looking the other way or the people in charge of it weren't smart enough to realize fraud was occurring, they tell all their friends. And it happens all the time, especially now with the internet and social media. And texting. These people are just shooting off messages. Here's how you defraud the system. Here's how you defraud the system. And either somebody on a state level knew this was going on and didn't have the balls to say anything because of who they might offend, or they're so fucking stupid that they didn't realize the amount of fraud that was in just inherent in the system. Inherent in the system. Oh no, 32 billion unemployment. That's nothing. And like O2AMT says, and no one goes to jail. It's either intentional or it's stupidity, but you have to own one of them at some point. You can't just say, oh, it happened. That's what the politicians thrive on. They thrive on that 24-hour news cycle, taking a story, throwing enough out of there where they can say, hey, we reported on it. I talk about that with the media all the time. They throw out tidbits of stories to say, look, we're objective. We talked about that for 12 seconds. And then for the next 2 days, you hear about something that gets you away from the true story. And that's California right now. California is one giant. You think Minnesota's bad? Not even kinda. Not even kinda. Wait till they start auditing the actual cost of illegals with healthcare in California and how much money illegals got in free healthcare in California. Never mind the free income. Never mind the free housing. Never mind the stipends that they were getting that you and I would never get. Trust me, I know. You would never get it. And then when they wonder why we're mad about immigration, when they wonder why we're mad about the amount of money we're spending on homeless or the train to nowhere, it's because every fucking time in the state of California you turn around, we see another scam going on that the government is damn well aware of. And like O2 AMT said in the chat room, nothing's going to happen. Nobody's going to go to jail. Nobody's going to be held accountable. And Newsom is going to try to talk his way out of it. Oh, that wasn't me. I wasn't in charge of that. I saw the stipend, but then this happened and that happened. And I thought they were handling it. And I was at the French Laundry and we were sitting there plump jack and we were jacking each other off and blah, 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 blah. But I didn't know this was going on. And the leftist media pieces of shit in this country will 100% run cover for him because that's what they do. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. And hey, look, so Wednesday's Christmas Eve. I have plans Christmas Eve night, but what I'm going to do is we used to have a thing on Sackheads that we do every Christmas. We would talk about crossing the Delaware, the story of Christmas Day attack, Christmas night attack, and how important that was to the nation. At 3 p.m. on Wednesday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 on the East Coast, I'm going to come on and we're going to talk about that story. I don't know if it'll be the full hour. It will replace my show Christmas Eve night. But it's a tradition that I want to bring back because I think stories like that are important. And I've really, really been trying to work on bringing back some of the historical stories that we used to tell on SHR because I feel that they need to be spoken about. So please watch for it. I think it's going to be 3 o'clock. I got to lock a few things down just to make sure, but I'll put up the announcement on my X, the number 2 Against Tyranny, and the SHR Media pages when I decide what time it's going to be. Please check out all the other great shows on SHR Media. Tuesday and Thursdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon on the East Coast. I doubt Thursday Big E's going to be going because it is the holiday, obviously. Maybe he will. I don't know. Mission Ready Men with Big E on Tuesday, Thursday nights. BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. Again, check the website. Check the social media. The holiday schedule is coming. People will be taking time off, and rightfully so. Mondays and Fridays. 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 on the East Coast. You have the Reaver Common Sense by Bud Jersey Joe. Make sure you check out his show. Make sure you check out all the great articles on shrmedia.com. They've been pumping them out for the last couple weeks, the last couple months. We've been trying to really be consistent with stories that we think you need to see. And again, our stories, if it's just news-based, if it's not in the op-ed section, it's a black and white depiction of what that news story is about. Anything that's opinionated, unlike mainstream media, we put a little part of it says, hey, this is the opinion of the author, blah, 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 blah. We're very transparent about that for a reason. We want you to have the real information. If you choose to read and listen to our opinions, great. If you don't, totally cool too. shrmedia.com. Please check it out. Please like and subscribe from wherever you're watching from. If I don't talk to you between now and Christmas, I hope you have a very Merry Christmas with you and your family. I hope you're safe. I hope you're warm. I hope you guys have a beautiful time. And that's going to be it for me. I will talk to you Wednesday. I'll let you know what time. Have a great night and thank you.